Yes, I was in England yesterday and I met up with Maurice Kirk, and I was trying to do some interviews with him. And here we are, just a little sequence. This little sequence reveals a great deal about Maurice, which the sequence was about aircraft, and as we were about to start the interview, a little aircraft came flying by, I don't know, 4,000, 5,000 feet. I hadn't heard it, he heard it, and he was obsessed. All of a sudden, Maurice was flying the aircraft, which has nothing to do with us, of course, but it just shows the nature of the guy. He's like Peter Pan, the little boy who never grew up. And he flies, just like Peter Pan. And when I was a kid, we used to have a Peter Pan book in our house. And it used to have to be hidden away. It used to frighten my brother, this book. We had to hide it away from him because the story about the alligator and the pirate and all that, there's some quite, like lots of these little children's stories, there's a lot of hidden meaning in it. And I think that's like with Maurice. There's a lot of hidden meaning in what goes on. He's been like this all his life. He's been Peter Pan obviously all his life. He's never quite grown up. But you just listen to what he's flying this aircraft. He's up there flying this aircraft.
Up there doing a false landing, what we call a fan stop.
Oh, is he?
The engine stopped, and he's looking for an air. He's going to land on the beach. They're arguing about where to land. First thing when the engine stops, speed to height. Right. Turn your speed into height, right, and start looking for a field. And look at the wind. Which way's the wind? Because you can turn into wind, and with the wind, you can cover more fields and beaches until they're down to the critical height of about 500 feet. Because to turn in and land, you're going to be using 300 feet. I've had the odd engine failure in my life.
I know, I remember.
16.
You see, he's captivated by it. He's totally captivated. He loves flying. He loves aircraft. And it sort of dominates his life, but other things get in the way. And I recorded yesterday several hours of film with him about various aspects of his life. But that, to me, just about sums it up. I don't know what's frightening in Maurice. He's one of these guys who appears not to be frightened of anything. He's been in prison for 5 years. He's done prison 5 years. For all these, lots of people think, well, why'd you get involved? He takes it very seriously. And the aircraft are central in many ways to what's been going on. And I just think it's fascinating. So following on from this will be the interview. After this, I will publish the interview that I managed to put together, and he keeps wandering off in all sorts of tangents. But it's what happened. He's ditched his plane down in Africa, and it's still there. And this is trying to catch up, because a lot of people around the world, they're interested. Well, what's happened to the plane? This will try and catch up a bit. Maurice Kirk, and we're catching up on his international flying exploits again. And particularly I want to concentrate, if we can, restrain ourselves to Africa, because the public out there knows what happened. He crashed, or the airplane gave up on him temporarily, and he finished up in the middle of nowhere in guerrilla territory.
Yes.
But we saw the airplane being repaired with a rock by some locals, and we saw various things. We saw an engine which looked as though it was getting decent attention, stripped down, ready. What happened next, Maurice?
Well, my Jersey mentor, it's been stuck out there near Nairobi for nearly 3 years, and I pleaded with them to communicate with the British authorities because it is a British registered aircraft, and they didn't. Well, it sounds to me as if they didn't. So the aeroplane is now there. They put the engine on. I've had it reconditioned and so on, and they put the wings back on, and it just needs an engineer and I'm going to have to go out there and make sure it gets its final certificate. Right. Now, in my travels around the world, when it comes for its annual ticket, I was in Darwin, and they did it quickly through the British authorities, and New Zealand, and in Maine, in America. This time, it's a can of worms. I tell you, it's so frustrating, and I've got to go out there and make sure, but I can't go just yet.
Because those little the engine it's got in that little plane, it's a very simple little motor by the look of it.
It's like a Volkswagen
It
Beetle, not about the same, a bit bigger cylinders, and all designed before the war. The whole aeroplane was built for the D-Day landings, and what I tell them at schools where I give talks, apart from doing the geography lesson, showing them where I'm landing on beaches in strange places, and the African one is going to be a pretty good school lecture, is well, of course, boys and girls, this aeroplane has caused you to be lucky and not to have compulsory German in your school. This was a warbird, and anyway, she's there.
Who's keeping an eye on her?
I have a lovely Swede who built his own aeroplane and flew her to Sweden, Lars, and Lars spoke to me only yesterday, and he filmed it and we saw it live. It's sitting there undercover, but no one will move. I'm now talking to my friends in South Africa who had all the bunting out for me and everything in the flight with all the other aeroplanes 3 years ago, and we're even considering getting a South African engineer to come up, because I can't find I can't find anybody in Central Africa. It's absurd. They're maintaining the passenger aircraft in the international airport 10 miles away all the time, and all it takes is somebody to check.
The public out there, because there's a lot of people follow your blogs about the aircraft. They want a happy ending. They want to see this little aircraft flying again.
Oh, don't you worry about that. I have many irons in the fire. Yes.
You think it'll happen?
Oh, yes.
Could you get any of the... You say there's something to take a bit of film.
I'm a Kirk.
Could you get a bit of film?
Did you ever meet my mother?
No, I didn't.
Well, of course, she is a direct line of Captain Morgan.
All right.
Of good rum.
Right, well, there was a Jersey Captain Morgan and there was a Jamaican Captain Morgan. They were cousins.
Well, it's the one that lived in Wales.
Right, well, they were Welsh origin. Yes.
A nasty piece of work, rumour has it.
He was a creative entrepreneur, I think is what they call him these days.
Well, that's where I get it, from the Morgan side.
Right.
Yes, of the family.
We want to see it flying again.
You will.
Okay. Should we stop discussing the aircraft and move on to other things? Are you up
Yes.
for other things?
Yes.
Okay.